Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your midday market report for Wednesday, May 25th, 2022. Our weekly trip across the border to see, back in my day, we called him Mr. Peter Puck. I know he's way, way too young to remember this, but it used to be the Sunday NHL game of the week on, I think it was NBC back then. And in between intermissions, there was a cartoon character named Peter Puck. And they used to talk about all kinds of stuff about hockey to get the kids involved, which we need to do nowadays is keep the kids more involved in sports, not their phones and their video games and all that other stuff. But anyways, a good time to reflect to get the man on so we can talk some pucks, props, and playoffs as we get closer to the Stanley Cup. As I will admit for the 10,000th time, I was wrong about the Tampa Bay Lightning. I slept on them. And I'm interested to see Andrew's take on that. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Andrew McInnis.
Hello, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon. Doing well. Not happy about last night's results, but today's a new day, and it's been a good run. But I'm in motivated mode right now. I'm ready to bounce back here, Jeff.
Well, it was funny because we went 3-0 last night in
Sweet.
baseball. We grabbed two first fives, Angels and Braves, and we bring them home. And being back on the East Coast, I have the MLB package. So usually what I do is when I try to finally shut it down around 12 o'clock, 12:30, I go into the bedroom, put the TV on, and I fall asleep to the West Coast games. Well, we had the Giants who were up 8-2 in the sixth, then 8-4. So as I try to get comfortable, I witnessed something that as there came a time where the San Francisco Giants, you just couldn't play them because of their back end. Last year they had a great year, so I don't put them in that category. But at 8-2, I felt comfortable. But in the sixth, when they gave up a two-run homer, it was 8-4. And then in the eighth, I saw base hit, infield hit, base hit, and then Lindor hits one down the line. The left fielder goes for it and falls. And it was just a shit show. They scored a touchdown and an extra point, and now they got an 11-8 lead. And now I'm fired up. I can't sleep. And I'm caught up in the madness, which I won't bore the rest of the listeners after my vent on the Breakfast Banquet. They tied it 11-11 with a Jock Peterson homer, his third of the game. The Mets take a 12-11 lead in the top of the ninth, and then the Giants get a safety in the bottom of the ninth and win 13-12.
So easy enough to say you weren't able to settle into bed and get comfortable for the night. I don't know how you would, that's for sure. I mean, I fell asleep during a Colorado Avalanche game the other day, and I don't know how I did that. I must have been exhausted because those games are pretty exciting. I don't know how I fell asleep during that one, but man, that's a tough game to be on in general, and then to have your money on it, and then to be in bed getting ready for to sleep. I don't know how you did it, but hey, what an ending to that one.
Hockey. Go back to before the playoffs started. We talked last week and the week before that. I had Leafs beating the Lightning. I had winner of Panthers Leafs winning the East to face the Avalanche, with the Avalanche winning the Stanley Cup. Let's speed it up. Lightning beat the Leafs in 7. Lightning dominate the Panthers. As this is going, probably going to have almost a week off as the Hurricanes and Rangers get ready for most likely a 7-game series. Carolina can't lose at home, can't win on the road. And now we go out west. And it's funny because, we talked about this. Once Edmonton fired the coach, they actually played a little defense. Now, this series now, don't get me wrong, I mean, it's been electric for a lot of goals, but Uh, I yesterday saw, I thought, which is a little hope, meaning, and I sent it to you, Tim Murray, and a few other people. If you liked the Flames last night, why take a minus 105 when you can get them plus 165 in the series, knowing they'll be big favorites game 5 and 7 at home? Well, obviously down 3-0, tie it 3-3, and then the heroics late by Edmonton. It looks like we're setting up for an amazing NHL. Couldn't have asked for a better Abs and Oilers Western Conference final.
Yeah, I mean, as far as ratings go, I mean, I guess some might argue you want American teams in there for the American views, but when it's Connor McDavid, I don't think people care. They want him, going as far as possible. So if we get a McKinnon versus McDavid Western Conference Finals, that is going to be one hell of a series. And how about that game last night, though, Jeff? It starts off with a Markstrom little hiccup there, passes the puck to the wrong wrong team, and then hey, why not Smith? You might as well make the game interesting. He lets in a 130 footer, and the one hopper. Puts his arms up in the air as if to blame someone on his team, as that's their fault. And the Oilers go on and win that game. But I just, as far as that series goes, I cannot give more respect to Evander Kane for what he's done. Empty net goal last night, but assists, has a hat trick in the playoffs already. What he's brought to the team, both physically and just, people always say, like, remember talk about the start of your show about, stuff that's past my time. Well, the whole Scottie Pippen and MJ era is actually, that's way before me. But, people often undermine Jake Gensel because he plays on a line with Sidney Crosby, right? It takes a very, very talented player to play with the best. And I think people really don't understand that. And then why do I bring that up? Well, because Kane, everybody knows, is already a solid player, but the way he's able to skate with Draisaitl and especially McDavid is incredible. And the fact that this guy wasn't on their team 6-7 months ago, and now he's making the impact he is, it's huge for them. And Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, he is the longest standing Edmonton Oiler right now on that team, I do believe. Big performance from him last night. Zach Hyman, anything that leaves the Leafs turns into gold. Had to get that little joke in there, but hey, that's what's made this team so good. It's not been McDavid's playing out of his mind, but he certainly has had some help, and that's been a huge difference. You know, there's the Canadian broadcast and the TNT broadcast, and I love watching the Barstool stuff with Spit and Chicklets and them with Paul Bizanet and Biz Nasty. He's hilarious. You can't take him seriously half the time, Jeff. But one thing he said, I really, really thought was true. He said, "You don't want to play pond hockey against the Edmonton Oilers." And the fact of the matter is, I don't think Calgary can avoid that. Daryl Sutter would love to play in a 2-1, 3-2 type of hockey game. I just don't think they can do that. It's been made very clear that if they want to beat Edmonton, they have to score at least 4 goals. And to me, that's worrisome because if Edmonton says, "All right, we're going to open things up, let's do it." So I've been surprised, but pleasantly surprised by that series. Um, as far as the Kane series goes, Jeff, I didn't want to lay the juice, man. I didn't want the minus 190 or 200. So I bet Carolina to win in 6, hoping they'd steal a game on the road. What is this? New players, different guys in the jerseys? I mean, it's a different team, on the road. And we saw that at the Garden against the Bruins. And we're seeing it again here. So it's been a great second round, though.
I think the problem with what they did versus the Bruins, and I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm going to throw this at you. There's a guy between the pipes for the Rangers that could stand on his head in a game 7, and the Rangers could beat you 1-0. The Bruins didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
The Rangers do have that.
I agree. And I guess I could say I'm pot committed already with series futures and Stanley Cup and betting on them on the money line and stuff. So maybe it's hard for me to not stick to my guns, but I'll say this: as bad as they've been on the road, they worked all year long to earn that home ice advantage. And so far in these playoffs, they haven't. I mean, besides actually, there was one game against New York where they might not have deserved to win it at home, but they haven't done much at home to prove to me that they can't continue to do what they're doing. So if this was a 7-game series going back to MSG, what are the odds? What am I thinking? Am I thinking, okay, Carolina can still win this? Definitely not. I'm already counting my Carolina in 6 ticket as a loser. I'm just hoping they win in 7. We were taking a look on our show on Puck Time today about, I think it was like minus 150 for Hurricanes, saying what's the bet right now, updated future prices, what's the bet? And that was our topic, which is Sturkin, like you just mentioned. But I kind of just stuck to my guns and said, I'll take whatever team is at home in game 7.
I have to agree there. I think that one's obviously going to go 7. Now, I started to think with the Lightning winning in 4, there'd be more of a sense of urgency for Carolina last night. I thought the fact that, hey, we really need to steal this and then let's take it back home. Let's win this in 5 and not give the 2-time defending cup champs any more rest.
Well, Steven Stamkos said it. He's like, we're looking forward to the rest, and he's going to get it. Uh, do you think everybody and their mother are going to be on Tampa Bay in game 1 of the conference finals, whatever that price might be? I mean, if this goes 7 and it's 3-2 and double OT, how many days off and hours off are Tampa Bay going to have? And it's going to be a lot. So um, I agree with that. And I'm really, really curious to see what tomorrow's game brings, because whether it's low scoring or high scoring, this home and road dichotomy is just ridiculous. Like, we've seen road home splits in football, basketball, hockey before, but this in the playoffs is just crazy, because it's not like they're just losing and winning on road and home. They're getting like dominated on the road and then winning like relatively convincing at home. So it's like, it's some people say wins are wins and losses are losses, and I agree with that. But when you're talking about analyzing a team's performance, you do have to look at, okay, how'd this team lose and how'd they win? And I don't know. I guess you can tell I'm kind of disappointed in myself for taking Carolina last night, but I figured at minus 110, maybe they can squeak out a road victory. But yeah, a little bit surprised by that. But I'm the most shocked by Florida. Man, like I liked Tampa Bay, but I didn't think it was going to be a sweep like that. That was crazy. At least hopefully they scored more at the strip club the night before than they did on the ice in that elimination game, because apparently they were out till about 4 in the morning the night before at the strip clubs in Florida. That didn't do them any justice.
Before we move to tonight's game, and then we'll talk a little about the rest of the Carolina game on game 6. I mean game 5, excuse me. Do you think in general most of the public, I have to say Vegas, were they throwing us the okey doke with Tampa in this regards? You got an amazing price on them pre-flop in the playoffs. If you thought they were going to win the East, if you thought they were going to make it to the Cup and win the Cup, first of all. Second of all, they were opened plus 115 against Toronto. They opened plus 140 and change against Florida. Yes, they didn't have home ice advantage. It doesn't matter. We didn't even have to talk once about the 17-0 after a loss the last 3 years with Vasilevsky. My question to you, was Vegas throwing us a curveball, the old Jedi mind tricks, or did they honestly think that, hey, they won 2 in a row, it's time to pass the torch?
I just really think it was the old "what have you done for me lately" type of thing. And Tampa Bay wasn't the best team down the stretch. I think back to breaking down some of these games and the slates. Tampa Bay was certainly not the team they are right now a month and a half ago. Would you agree? I mean, they didn't look like this team. So the Panthers, they looked like how Tampa Bay is playing now, if not better, as far as at least goal production wise, not defense and goaltending wise. But it's what I love about hockey. The fact that the playoffs are so different than the regular season. And even we're seeing that with Calgary and Edmonton. I mean, Markstrom plays average and not great. Couple of the goal scorers slow down for Calgary, and things change. So, but those prices just you use the term curveball, but like that might have been a curveball that missed wide and outside because I don't understand the prices we saw there. I think two teams I regret not putting futures in on, which I know it's easy to say now, but a couple days ago, I would have liked to have put something on the Oilers. But Tampa Bay, if I thought they were going to beat the Leafs, why didn't I put a little something on them to at least win the conference? I kind of regret that because they were a dog going into that series, and they probably would have been a dog against Florida as they were big dogs. So lessons learned, Jeff, but I'm kind of disappointed about that.
I just when I looked at the brackets and for me reading the market and having Toronto open minus 130,
Mm-hmm.
just right there was a red flag alone. And that's why I'd say, all right, knowing what Toronto has done in the past playoffs, knowing if it gets to a game 7, but Vegas is telling us they weren't favored at all in Toronto. They weren't favored till game 4 against the Panthers. In game 3, the Panthers were favored in Tampa. I just don't get it, Andrew. I don't get it.
And that's the thing I wonder is that what more did it take for them to have to get more respect from the market? That's what I ask you, Did it have to be an elimination game for them to be that big of favorites? And then I took the over in that game. I didn't even bet on Tampa in the closeout game. I figure we might actually end up seeing, some goals and something out of Florida. I mean, that old handicapping expression, don't catch a falling knife. Well, it gutted me right in the hand because Florida scored 3 goals in the entire series. They averaged more goals per game during the regular season than they scored in four games against Tampa in the second round. Unbelievable. I think it was 4.2 goals per game in the regular season, 3 goals in the whole second round.
And what I kept saying was in the regular season, and you talked about this every week with us, they'd get down 2 or 3 goals in the regular season, and they just found a way to come back. And they did that in the first round. They found a way to come back from 2-goal deficits, 3-goal deficits. And then in comes Tampa. And it was just, you cannot get behind on that team. And they never could get a lead. Hey, they got behind a couple times, tied it up real quick. But, I guess the actual game breaker was game 2 when they scored with Tampa scored with like 1 second left before it was going to go to overtime. And then that was game 2, right? In Florida.
Yes. And that was the backbreaker when Mackenzie Weegar, actually former Halifax player, left his assignment. Couple seconds left, but that's the thing though, is that we can talk about those plays being the difference, but those are the little things that Tampa does. And as someone, just to take my handicapper hat off for a second, as someone that's a Montreal Canadiens fan, that love to hate on the Tampa Bay Lightning for being 15 million over the cap, and this guy shouldn't have played and that guy shouldn't have played. Look what they've been able to do. I mean, Corey Perry, Nick Paul, like all these guys, Ross Colton. I mean, those guys have been the story of the playoffs. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, that's what it takes to win. And that's why I look at a team like Florida. And I was on the show last night with Sports Map Radio with Chris Thurston, and they asked, well, what do you think? Is it still worth looking at it next year, a future for Florida? Do you think they can turn things around? I said, well, they don't have that toughness, and they have a lot of players that do the exact same thing. What Tampa Bay has are 9 to 12 players that do a lot of different things. And that's what really worries me about them going into next year. As far as with Florida goes, they have some free agents, and like, what did Giroux bring to that team besides experience? Does he score gritty goals? Does he score goals in the blue paint? He's a guy that scores goals from 11 feet away, top corner. You know, the same thing that Barkov does, the same thing Huberdeau does. So I don't know. That's why I've been impressed with Edmonton. How many times have they scored like a tap in goal where they were, slapping their stick into Markstrom's pad, hoping a puck would go in and that kind of stuff. As much as people hate to admit it, that's how you win playoff hockey games.
I was Scott Webb, who does our evening closing bell, who lives in the Tampa area, was of course smiling from ear to ear. But they talked to the head coach. He was talking about a press conference or a podcast with the Tampa head coach, and he says, "What's the difference?" He goes, "To be honest, we weren't worried about our play in the regular season because we know come playoff time, we can win 2-1. We can win 3-2 with defense, with our goaltending and our experience." And hit me with the dummy stick. I mean, I'm just blindsided. I'm blown up on the East. I need the Avs to win the West and obviously the Cup at this point. And I talk about, the blind squirrel finding a nut. I always talk about the public and the degens. I mean, they wake up the first round, they get the plus 115 against Toronto. They're not going to lose in that series. And then they're giving you guys plus 140 against the Florida team that just won a presidential cup. Whoop-de-doo. I mean,
Yeah.
it's free money. It's a bingo square in the center. It's a free bingo square. But for someone like ourselves that read the market, we analyze that entirely different.
I got to ask you, like, how much does the fact that Tampa Bay won the cup go into, like, being a past champion? And does that go into the line or numbers? Because it doesn't look like it really did.
It didn't.
Like the President's Trophy winners, but what has Florida done in the past 3 or 4 years? But I understand that the market isn't all about really what the line should be. It's what people are going to, bet and stuff like that. But I don't know. I mean, Florida was a great team. I'm not sure. Like, we can't come on here and say they're a bad team. They led the league in goals per game, shots per game, and power play goals, I'm pretty sure, per game. But against the Tampa Bay Lightning, I'd be curious, like, to talk to some sports book directors and see what the action looked like on that series.
It had to be. When I look at numbers like that, I just think Vegas is making a stance. They're saying, "Hey, we're willing to take all Tampa money. That's why we got it here. Come get it." And we're leaning Panthers, just like they were with Toronto. I mean, if that series opened up, the Lightning minus 120, right? They would have got all kinds of Toronto money. I'll circle all the way back to Carolina and the Bruins. It literally was a pick 'em before the series started, and Carolina was minus 115, 120. So they make their stances knowing where they want the money, and they're going to get the money. And they got the money. They're still open. As last I checked, I just DM'd and I talked to Jeffrey Benson. The circus still open, by the way. They didn't have to close the doors with all the Lightning money. And so they're
still running. They're still running. Those
right.
screens behind you, they're still on. The electricity bill has been paid.
Yes, they're still on. So tonight's game, potential gentleman sweep, lines through the roof. I mean, we talk about getting creative. Avs regulation, Avs minus goal and a half, meaning get a lead in the third period. They're gonna pull the goalie. You get a couple of those empty netters, and with that thought process, over 6.5. Thoughts, angles, props. Where are you going, if anything, tonight?
I wanted to pull up something that I found yesterday. I thought was pretty interesting. I saw this is for the NBA playoffs this year. 28.9% of games decided by 20 plus points, on pace to be the highest percentage since 1959. For the NHL, 49.2% of games decided by 3 plus goals, on pace to be the highest percentage since 1983. And I bring that up again because I'm not a huge puck line better, but for some situations, I have turned into being one in the playoffs. And you look at that price on the Avalanche tonight, take away the empty net goals, take away all that stuff, and just look at the pure stats that we're seeing in the playoffs right now. Last night, hey, sure, it was an empty net goal, but again, we saw puck line cash in Edmonton. New York, puck line cashes. So for anybody out there looking to bet the Avalanche tonight, I beg you to not take that money line. And hopefully I don't end up looking stupid when I say this and it doesn't go to overtime. But at around plus 100, I think it's a good bet to take a look at Colorado. But I'm going to do the exact same thing, Jeff, that I tried to do with the Florida series, except for, hey, St. Louis has actually scored some goals, not just three. And look at the over 6.5, because the Blues have tried to play the Blues style of hockey that won them the cup a couple years ago. And I feel like they had to do that because they knew they couldn't skate with the Avalanche, but they actually also were the second highest scoring team in the league during the regular season. So you have to make up your mind. Do you want to try and play pond hockey with these guys, or do you want to try and shut it down? All of a sudden, your number one during the regular season, Husso, is back in net. But the guy that was doing cartwheels standing on his head, Bennington, is out for the series. So as much as I think that it benefits the St. Louis Blues to play in a 3-2 type of game, I don't know if they could contain Colorado into doing that. So I look at goals tonight. I look at over 6.5. I look at my favorite play of the day for tonight. And I've got a big MLB play going at the website. So I'm going to give all my action for free here. I think that Ryan O'Reilly over 2.5 shots on goal is the best bet of the night tonight. The old saying, big time players make big time plays. Also, the most experienced players make big plays. And he's a guy that was part of that cup run. He made a lot of big plays, late in games for his team during that cup run. And at 2.5 shots on goal, whether or not it's, minus 135, maybe 40, it's worth it at that number and not being at that 3.5. So sometimes with the props, I do want to have the best, plus money or, minus 110, 120. But with this, I'm comfortable looking at it. I'm also looking at a guy, Jordan Kyrou, to get a point in tonight's game. I think he's someone that has to be huge for them. And then Cale Makar over on his shots on goal too. They cannot set that number high enough. Cale Makar is a fourth forward. Whenever he's out there for his team, you don't even think he's a defenseman. So I think that with the way that betting has advanced, maybe not at some of these books, but most books you shop at, you should be able to get shots on goal props. You should be able to get team shot props, and you should also be able to get goaltender save props. What I'm trying to say is I think I expect a big effort from the St. Louis Blues tonight that just won't be enough. Are we on the same page?
100%. 100%. I agree with everything that you're saying there. I will keep an eye on the Blues in the second period, as always.
Oh, yeah. I got to shut you out for that. I mean, it's unbelievable. No matter how juicy it is, we should be taking the St. Louis Blues second period, maybe second period over. Forget the third period over, second period over.
It's amazing. It just, I caught it. It was literally, I think, sometime after the Classic in January, maybe early February. I think the Blues played an outdoor game. I was on the road. We released it, and they were down like 2-0 after one. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And they scored 5 goals in the second. And I'm like, whoa. And then ever since then, it just caught my eye. And they've been a cash cow in that second period. I feel like Paulie and Mitch, they come up with these crazy stats and stuff. And I threw that out to them. I talk to you all the time and Tim Murray about that. It's just amazing. Some of the trends that catch your eye out of nowhere, and you keep following them, and they keep coming in. I'm going to throw Biff's Almanac, or I should say the Ouija board at you. I'm going to ask you a couple quick questions before we close here. Do we see a game 7, Calgary and Edmonton?
No.
Okay. Do we see a game 7, Carolina and the Rangers?
Unfortunately, yes.
Carolina Lightning. Lightning. Who has home ice here? Lightning?
Carolina.
Carolina. Opening number Carolina Lightning for the series.
I was thinking like 120 for Carolina.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Most likely because they'll be undefeated at home. And, they just got to hold serve. Lightning have been underdogs every series. Why not this one?
Mm-hmm.
Here's a lesson to everyone listening and paying attention that want to listen. When we're in our lanes, we do a lot of shows, we do a lot of content, we do a lot of talking, and sometimes you really need to listen to yourselves. I was going back on some tapes, Andrew, and my preseason hockey analysis was East Carolina and Florida. Those were my two teams, not Lightning, Carolina and Florida. Out west, it was the Avs and a cloud of dust. You want to take whoever to try to beat them, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
NBA was Golden State, and in the East was Chicago and the Heat. Okay, so
Well
the
done with
fact
those.
that what's that?
Well done with Warriors and Heat. I mean, great job.
So the fact of the matter is, as the season progresses, as today's markets progresses, you can dive in at any point. A lot of people don't want to have their money tied up 6, 8, 9 months in advance.
Mm-hmm.
I get all that. So when you get to this point or 2, 3 weeks prior, and you get the actual brackets, the Jedi mind tricks going. Oh, Lightning aren't going to make it, yada, yada, yada. What we've just talked about the last 30 minutes. So it's crazy to get to this point. So Carolina, minus 120 against Tampa with a week's rest after they just beat Toronto, after they just beat and swept the Panthers Presidential Cup, yet will be underdogs, because you are correct. They will be underdogs, yet the whole public will be on the Lightning.
I mean, ideally for me, because I have Carolina to win the cup, I'd love for Carolina to win the first game in that series and then take Tampa to win it. Not even just because I'm trying to hedge, but just because how well they've been playing. I mean, wouldn't it be unbelievable? It'd be like, I don't even know if we can call it David Goliath, but to see a Colorado Tampa, a team with all the talent like Colorado against a team in Tampa trying to three-peat with a crazy good goaltender, that'd be a series for the ages. That might be the best series I've seen in the championship since I've been alive. I mean, especially with a storyline. You love storylines like that. It's right now. I used to be someone I love basketball because that's the sport I grew up playing, but I watch hockey more. I would say to all my basketball buddies, how's it fun for you when the Cavs and Warriors are going to the finals every year? And now it's almost, if Tampa Bay makes the finals, they're going to say the same thing to me. Tampa Bay three-peat, here they go again. So, and then it will be, the funny thing is they'll be underdogs again, and it'll be against the chalk of the Avalanche.
What is your number, Avs and Lightning? I got my number in my head. I want to see how close you are to me.
That's tough. I want to hear your number, but
I'll give you my number, then I'll let you piggyback off of it. Okay. Avs minus 165, Lightning plus 145.
Okay, that's what I was thinking was 50 or 60. But let me ask you this, because does it make sense to say, I mean, how much? I think it really depends on how well they do against, as of right now, it looks like Edmonton. Do they go the distance against Edmonton? Do they dominate them? Are they in a tougher matchup right now against the Blues? Because I did say that I thought the winner of the Blues and Avalanche series goes to the Cup Finals. Like, I mean, not that that was a bold take or anything, but like, I think it really has a lot to do with how tested they are against the Oilers. I mean, it honestly wouldn't shock me if the Carolina Tampa series goes deeper than the Colorado Edmonton series, and then all of a sudden we have the Avalanche more rested. But I don't know. Let me ask you this: do you think it's I'm too late because I didn't do it yesterday before the game to take it in Edmonton future? Do you think that I mean, and should I hope Calgary wins the next one and then do it, or
Well, that's what I did. Is I didn't want to bet the minus 105 yesterday, so I took when I sent you what the information that I showed you. I took the Calgary plus the 165. So here's what you have to have happen. You have to have Calgary make it 3-2, and then you got to get in then. Um, after 3-2, because I don't think you're going to get a good number right now. If you go, I don't know if you've downloaded the Circa app. You can download the Circa app, and they'll have all the information there, and they have some exact matchups and stuff. So you might be able to see what they have for
but
odds.
the Oilers are up 3-1 though.
That's why I'm saying you would literally have to wait one more game. You're not going to get your decent odds. Wait till hopefully. I mean, the Flames are probably what
Right.
minus 160, 165, maybe 145 for tomorrow.
Yes.
Wait till the Flames hopefully win, and then go and check your price on the Oilers. Because
Right.
I was going to ask you a crazy question here, because everyone's trying to beat the Avs. We were doing that for the last 2-3 months, and even before the playoffs started. And I said all along that the Flames were way overpriced, overvalued. If I said this to you, you're going to look at me like I'm crazy here. Would the Avs have a letdown that they're not going to have an opportunity to beat the crap out of the Flames, even though it's the Oilers and Connor McDavid and company?
Well, I mean, the Flames did come in with lots of, like you said, lots of hype. I definitely would tend to agree with that, but I don't know. I think this Avalanche team would love to take down McDavid and Draisaitl. That's for sure.
Okay.
But like people always say, so when I've been doing shows recently, they're like, "What's your future?" And I said like 2 weeks ago on People's Show, I'm like, "It's the Avalanche. Chalk is chalk, but they're gonna win." And they've been winning. But what I'd love to do is perfect scenario, like you mentioned, Calgary wins the next one. I think I'd get Edmonton at what were the odds yesterday? It was better than like 10-1. It was like 13 or something. Anyway, something like that. So imagine this. I take Colorado in a lot of the games in that series. And if they don't win that series and get upset, I've got Edmonton at whatever price I get them. And best case scenario ever, Carolina makes the finals, and I've got a 14-1 and a 12-1 going head to head. I mean, that would be a dream. But if not, I make money off Tampa Bay in that series, and I make money off Colorado in that series. So if both my futures are out, I make money during this. Like I don't want to fade myself, but just all about the value. If I get Edmonton at a great 14-1 price in a conference final, pretty much, then I can kind of bet against them. And if they win, then I'm sitting on a great ticket. So I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't think the Cup's coming back to Canada, but with the way they're playing, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'll close on this part of it. Is Dave and Matt had a couple of the NHL experts on right before the playoffs started, and it was kind of comical because the gentleman was saying, well, only a fool would take the Avs to get out of the West. It's hockey; anything can happen. And I had Dave on the next day. I says, well, I'm one of those fools here. If you're going to give me the Avs at plus money to win the West and Avs at plus money to win the Cup, I'm taking it. Thank
Yes.
you.
And it's not often we do that with hockey, but this year is different, I think.
The scroll has been running the whole time. Everyone here watching and listening, I thank you. You can catch Andrew at McInnis Picks at Wager Talk. It's Sports Mayflower. Run over to YouTube at Mayflower Sports. Subscribe. It's free. Smash the like button. Tell a friend or two. Andrew, the stage is yours. Tell everyone what they got coming up this week, that the rest of the month, June, over at Wager Talk from you.
Yeah, like I said during the show, gave out my hockey predictions. Today I have a big play going in the MLB. I'm a very low volume player. It's 1 to 2 plays a day, if that. Maybe that every 2 days, but I have a top play going at Wager Talk today. message me on Twitter. I can hook you up with a 1 week special if you want to get in for longer term. Other than that, look, Jeff, I'm really excited. We've been doing a lot of in-person interviews now over with Mayflower Sports, covering media. We were covering the Major League Soccer, actually. We're just visiting in town, taking on our local team. Got to interview the coach, actually a Canada men's national team player. So growing my own media company alongside with doing sports betting has been great and very time consuming. So things are great, though.
Time consuming. Every time I look on Twitter, you're on some kind of show, whether it's late night with Gabe or you're on with CTU, and yesterday, occasional appearance here and there on VSiN. I mean, you're just circling the globe now. You're talking about your own media company. Just make sure two things. You start lining up A, a secretary, and B, an agent, and then C, everything will take care of itself.
Yeah, that's the plan. Hopefully, one of these days.
All right.
I
So for my
appreciate being here with you, though, Jeff, as always.
always, hey, and we'll let the little birdie out of the little tweet. Hopefully, coming this fall at some point, myself and Andrew will be putting together 2 shows a week. If some other 10,000 people don't grab them, so that's why I'm saying it out loud. So it's time stamped. So they got to come and ask me too. So.
Let's do it.
All right. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from Andrew McInnis at McGinnis Picks, we wish everyone a blessed afternoon and evening. Enjoy the games. Have some fun with it. But if you do have a problem, pick up the phone. There's an 800 number. Just ask for help. Why? Myself and Andrew care. We want to see you here today, tomorrow, next week, next month, through 2022 and beyond. For myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from Andrew McGinnis and McGinnis Picks and Wager Talk. Have a day, guys, and we will see you soon.